Welcome to the pilot episode of Enduins Level 1, where we give our initial impressions on games ranging from mobile to PC to console and more. I'm your host Dobby from the replays, and let's get our game on and start from level 1. I love Hollow Knight, and how I even got to know about it in the first place was wild. I had a Souls-like phase early on in my streaming career, and that one game that kept popping up was Hollow Knight. It wasn't really the most well-known title, but it was always in the discussion for being a difficult game. And being a masochistic streamer at the time, I just had to try it, and surprisingly enough, I was hooked. It was Team Cherry's first indie game, and at the time it had 4 DLCs for free that you could play, and there was an upcoming sequel featuring Hornet, another Bug Knight, and one of the game's bosses in the works. What was originally meant to be DLC turned into a full-on sequel, and it's even hitting the Wii U. What clowns we were thinking that it had actually come out on time, but you know what? We can take the clown makeup off as Silksong finally released 7 years later. If you've played Hollow Knight, you already know what to expect. You get another fast-paced Metroidvania featuring a different bug, but the similarities end there. Instead of the knight, you're controlling Hornet, one of Hollow Knight's most notable characters, serving as a boss early on and as an ally as the game progresses. You aren't just some silent, cool-looking badass, but an actual character with their own convictions. Instead of a nail, you have a needle, and instead of hollowness, you're in the kingdom of Fardoom. Your soul's been swapped out for Silk, and if it wasn't different enough, you could even heal midair now. The world of Silksong is harder, brighter, faster, and the enemies stronger. Don't let the first zone fool you, or even the caves, because this isn't just a rehash of the original Hollow Knight, but an entirely different experience altogether. Like with every Metroidvania, exploration is key, but progression is capped behind unlocking certain movement skills or the plot moving forward. You could find new progression spots early on in the game, but you'd be literally shut out behind a door. Or in some cases, you can't even reach that door. There's a lot of traveling to do if you want to get through that door though. But what's a journey without a little nuance, right? As you're exploring the kingdom of Farloom, it seems madness took over, because the journey to the top is filled with insects of all kinds trying to take you out. It's not all suffering though, because you do meet some new friends along the way, and they aren't just some random bugs. They actually join you as you grind your way to the top. If you enjoy Hollow Knight, there's no doubt that you'd enjoy Silksong. More Hollow Knight is good to have, and although 7 years is a short amount of time for a game sequel, it's still long considering this should have come out way earlier than that. The combat is more fluid compared to its predecessor, and that's even without a combat upgrade. Strikes are fast and precise, and even the dive kick adds a certain flair that only Hornet could have. You'd think that losing the pogo would make the game feel too different, but making it into a dive kick makes sense considering you don't have a nail or a broadsword, but a needle, or rather a rapier. You're a warrior, as per Sherman, the game's map maker remarks, and it shows. Speaking of maps, there's actual direction with how the plot turns out too. Quests are finally implemented through a literal wish board early on in the game's hub, and while some tasks may be menial, others go way deeper than you'd think. The world of Silksong feels so alive too with the vibrant colors, even if the setting itself may be bleak. Lava never looked so good, and seeing that eruption when something falls in is just magical, especially when you compare it with the forest early on in the game. It's not just the environment that's colorful, but the new characters too. And trust me when I say that Sherma is the best bug. I may not be far into my playthrough, and there's more to meet, but with each cutscene introduction, you know you're in for a treat. Remember that Hornet's a warrior? Yeah, the game does too. While its predecessor scales up in difficulty the further you progress, Silksong throws you at the wolves with more damage and more precise platforming. I remember a pogo jumping being more forgiving than this dive kick, but it does get frustrating when you get stuck. Again. And again. And again. And again. The game does offer you tools to make things easier, but whether or not you deserve them though, depends on how much you're willing to try. If you like Hollow Knight, you'll love Silksong, because while it does offer similar experiences, It's an entirely new world to discover. Did I mention that the game's only worth $20? And that's US dollars, by the way. While most AAA games would go higher, the team behind Silksong kept it at an affordable price range to the point that even pirates don't want to steal it. If you're prone to easily getting frustrated though, I highly advise against it. The game is hard, it's definitely harder than Hollow Knight, but if you're willing to take the time and get good, it's definitely worth purchasing. If you're hesitating, you could always try the first game before dipping your toes in Silksong, and that's alright. It may have taken 7 years, but just like the game's development, you have to go at it at your own pace. Here at Enduins Level 1, after giving our initial thoughts on the game, we have something called an ELO verdict, where we talk about the game's difficulty. Sometimes it's low ELO and casual, but other times it could be high ELO where you not only need skill, but patience too. There may even come a time when it's caught in between with some nuance here and there. But at the end of the day, each gamer should know their own limits. For Silksong though, it's a high ELO game where it's definitely a challenge no matter how you look at it. If you're willing to put in the time and effort though, your efforts will be rewarded. I can't believe it, but we actually got Silksong before GTA 6. It was surreal to see a date so close to its announcement reveal, but here we are a couple of weeks after. Hollow Knight is the kind of game that makes you rethink how a genre is supposed to be. Till now, any Metroidvania I get my hands on automatically gets compared to Hollow Knight. There are times when the game made with love is just a clear-cut winner. Will Silksong shake the foundations of what gaming is and should be? Probably, but only time will tell. Here's to finally putting that clown nose away though.